Oops. Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Cape Town Museum of Childhood Insta Chats. As you can see today, my producer slash set designer has added a little vibe here in the back, so you can see that's a little cell phone, because most of you probably watch this from your cell phone. The cell phone's playing a little hopscotch, a little childhood game. And we've got this book here. I'm sure some of you may not know that we produced a book called Untold Stories. And then we've got like a cool rocket over there, and then just me and my buns. These buns. So guys, I'm so sorry for starting so late. Today was a crazy morning. It's like everything was just working against me. But we are here, we are going strong, and I just want to thank all of you for joining, for watching. Happy Thursday. For those of you who don't know, my name is Chanel Fredericks, and I'm the Outreach Program Manager at the Cape Town Museum of Childhood. And the Cape Town Museum of Childhood is the first of its kind in Africa, and we are working hard. Well, unfortunately not now during the lockdown, but we're working hard for it to open, and it's going to be an interactive and exciting space that really explores and celebrates childhood. Okay, so my lovely producer is not here with me today, so if I'm looking down again, it's not that I am sleeping or not that I have any interest. It's just that I'm gazing at my lovely laptop here to see, my script. I need to stick to my script. So for the past few Insta chats, we've spoken to some really cool people. We've also commemorated or remembered or reflected on the lives of some of the freedom fighters that fought for the freedom that we enjoy today. And so we spoke about Ashley Creel, and we also spoke about Solomon Mahlangu. And so today we are going to speak a bit about a freedom fighter, and I'm sure some of you might not know, some of your parents might know him, some of your grandparents might know him. Okay, but his name is Johnny Issel. And I'm sure I've shared this story before, but just before the lockdown, I went to the museum. I needed to pick up a book. It was actually Bianca Flanders' book, so I could have it for the video chat. And then I picked up this lovely book called Knocking On, Mothers and Daughters in the Struggle. And the very first story I read was by Leila Issel, and she is the daughter of Johnny and Shahida Issel, and her mom's story is also in this book, which is also really good. And so I thought, we always hear about the freedom fighters' lives, but they also had families that also went through some hectic and some tragic things. So then I sent Leila a Facebook Messenger message, because we weren't friends. I just went a bit easy, and I said, listen, read your story, it's great, we need to get it out there. And she got back to me last week, and so now we are going to talk about her story. So I'm going to ask that you guys please give those a virtual round of applause. Leila Issel is going to be joining us all the way from Germany. So please, let's see those round of applause as we welcome in Leila. Okay, good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Leila. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Okay, so welcome to the Cape Town Museum of Childhood's Insta Chats. We've been doing this ever since the lockdown began in Cape Town or South Africa. And so we're so excited to be talking to you this morning. So how are you? I know you're all the way in Germany. I had to check with Leila. I was like, are you based in Cape Town? She said, no, I'm in Germany. So how has things been for you? I know the lockdown has been a bit different to what it is here in South Africa, but what has your family been up to? How have you guys been coping?
Yes, thank you, Chanel, for having me. Lockdown is very different in Germany. Of course, the different worlds that we have. South Africa was a second world, and I don't know, in between there. And Germany is the first world. So you'd immediately see that there is a level of respect in the first world countries, and people are not told what to do, but advised what to do, and people follow this. Uh, um, um, However, throughout the lockdown, we've been allowed to do exercise, so you can go out, but you have to observe the social distancing. But you can go out. For the last few weeks, we've been told it is we are obligated to wear masks, and you're not allowed to go into public without masks. And it is also very encouraged. So when you come to a shop, there would be gloves, plastic gloves available, hand sanitizers, and you would definitely not be able to enter without a mask.
Okay.
And of course, our lockdown has been a bit longer than South Africa because it hit us first. So I have two daughters and I am married. So we've just basically been inside. We've not even really gone out for exercises because our property is a bit large, so we could go walk about. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so I think you've basically given us a brief introduction. You spoke about the fact that you have two kids. You're based in Germany. You're also under the lockdown. Is there anything else you'd like people to know in terms of a little short introduction to who you are? I mean, many people have heard of your parents, Johnny Issel, Shahida Issel, but who is Leila Issel?
You know, I must be honest and say that because of my childhood, each and every day is for me a space of finding me. Who am I? What do I like? Have I learned to love? I'm always asking these questions because, like, all these questions pop up. So I would say that I am my father's child. I'm very straightforward. I have his wrath as well as his love. And I have my mom's strength to stay around, stick around. We have an overly sense of compassion in my family, my siblings and I. And that's what my parents drilled into us. So I don't really know. It's always a conveyor belt with me. Like, who am I? What am I? I'm always assessing.
Okay, so Leila, sorry, just before we welcomed you in, I just spoke about this book and how I grabbed it from the reading room at the Cape Town Museum of Childhood. And your mom, you and your mom were contributors to this book, and it's called Knocking on Mothers and Daughters in the Struggle in South Africa. So can you tell us a little bit about this book and why it was written?
So the book was organized by a very well-known female in South Africa named Shirley Gunn, and she called together a collective of moms and daughters who were maybe popular in the city. And I can only speak about my book or about my chapter. So I think the term knocking on means these women and their daughters are still walking forward, are still moving forward, are still living their lives in this new world that we have in Cape Town, because the world that we all come from, not just freedom fighters or stalwart children, the entire Africa or South Africa, it was a different world then. So this new world. So yeah, that's what the book was supposed to be about, and how were things then, and maybe small discussions of how are things now.
Okay, so your story is very real, very raw, and it was a very interesting read. I have a friend that is staying with us during the lockdown because her family's in Durban. And so I enjoy whenever I'm reading a book, she tends to come into my room. So I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to read it aloud to you. And she was also like blown away by your story. So I want to know, when did you realize that your household was different to others?
I think when I was 6, because I wasn't allowed to live at home. I had to go and live with my teacher, and my my mom explained to me that I had to go on the run. I had to go in hiding because the police are searching for my dad. And my best friend, who I'm still best friends with today, we've been best friends since I'm 3 years old, and I just spoke to her over the weekend. So we've been best friends for 43 years now, and I couldn't see her, and I couldn't play with her, and I didn't understand. And I had to stay with my teacher for a couple of weeks because they were searching for Johnny. And there were so many of these times that impacted on our lives because they were searching for him. So we got affected.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to read a little extract from the book, just a short one, so that people can also, get a feel of what your story was like, before I read the next question. Okay, so it says, when we were put with people, I looked after my brothers. But as we grew older, before our teenage years, Yasser, which is I think your younger brother, became strong and took turns filling in for the other. We treated Fadil as the baby. He's married with children today, but he's still the baby to Yasser and me. Although I'm the oldest, Yasser was the strongest, especially when the police pitched up. When they raided our houses looking for documents, flags, or anything that could be used to charge my mom and dad for furthering the aims of the African National Congress. I was the sly one. I would find all the stuff and move it out of the house while Yasser would be in their faces. That was our agenda as children. I think all children of political families had their own agendas. Although we had this life, which was constantly interrupted, it was our life. It was all we knew. That was how we lived. We knew no other life. It was a complete life for us. In the years to come, there were perks that came with it. It made us strong. It gave us all sorts of strengths which we reap today. So I want to ask, I'm sure when I want to speak a bit about what your school years were like, because I'm sure your peers and your teachers knew who your father was. And I mean, you touch a bit on that in the story, as in your story as well. So what was your school years like? How did people treat you? Did you have the police coming to look for you at school? What was your school years like? Because I'm sure your household life was a bit interrupted. I'm sure that carried on into your schooling as well.
Oh, yes, you're right, of course. So my school years was right from the beginning, it was a problem for the school authorities. Example, when I was 6 years old, I was saying I was living with a teacher, and I used to go to school every day. So the police were searching for me, and then they'd pitch up at my primary school, and I was sub A, and they'd pitch up at my primary school, and I had a teacher called Miss Fasahi, but she's passed away now, and she defended me from the SA police, and she would fight them off as to not take me. And I think they never really got to take me because of the way she fought them off. She and another teacher, Mrs. Baxon. And so that was my first time in direct contact with the police on my own without my parents. So there was that. And because of that, I had to then go into hiding with my teacher. And but funny enough, our principal, he wasn't really an ANC supporter, so it became more difficult. Because look, during those years when people were not ANC supporters, it didn't mean they were National Party supporters. It just meant also that they were afraid to associate themselves with the African National Congress. Because if they found that you are associated, they also target you.
Yeah.
So things were hard, because if the schools weren't protecting you, then they'd have
Yeah.
taken me.
Yeah. 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 I remember actually reading about that teacher. I remember you said she was quite beautiful and she had these beautiful braids. I think that's how you described it in your book.
Yeah.
And then now I just want to say hi to some people. I think we just got so into it that we love to interact with our audience. So hello to everybody that has joined. I think, is that Adalvi? Oh, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I don't want to say anybody's names wrong, but hi, Najwa, CJ, Don the Mom, Sandile, Bridget, Eric Atmore. Thank you guys for joining. Please, if you have any questions, please, or comments, or any memories, of Leila's parents that you want to share, this is the time to do so. Thanks so much for joining us, and we appreciate the support. See, the Bridget Cart says, CJ says hello, and Bridget Cart says fascinating childhood. Okay, Leila, so in our promo post, we had inserted a picture of you as a child, and you were standing with a poster that read, "Release my father and all his detainees." What can you tell us about this day? And I mean, that picture was just too perfect not to use for this post, because, I mean, I felt like it was just crazy, to see. And I mean, you can see also a really young girl in that picture. So what was this day? What can you remember about this day? Why were you there with the poster saying that?
So of course my dad was in detention at that time. He was being detained, I think, under Section 29. And there were so many others of them that were all together under this, including Stephen Corrales, I think,
Yes.
who was a very close friend of my dad's. And the lady with me in the picture is actually Jenny Schreiner.
Mm-hmm.
And she came and asked my mom, she and a friend came and asked my mom, she's from Pietermaritzburg, I think, or from KwaZulu-Natal, and came to ask my mom if she would let me accompany them to do a protest. And I think that it was emotional for the locals to see a child protesting for her father. And we weren't there very long, and the police came and threw us into remand trucks and arrested us. Yeah. And then I was there in jail, and
Sure.
that was I was first thinking, I need to find my mom here because it was scary. It was cold. It was scary. It was
Yes.
bare. It was
Yeah.
grey. There were just metal bars, and there were ordinary prisoners about also in the cells. But Jenny was lovely, and she kept me close to her. But I don't remember too much about it. I
Okay.
just have very vivid pictures of the bars and the grayness and how ordinary it was for the other prisoners to just be doing their own things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, how did you end up being released from jail? Do you remember how you got out? Like,
No,
no. Okay.
I must tell you, there's lots of things that I don't remember. The one
Mm-hmm.
because I do not want to remember.
Yeah.
Another because as we were growing up, you see, with a child, if there is so much obstruction or distraction or interruption, that affects your psyche. And I found that from a very young age, when things got too intense for me, I would flip into a different world. So,
Mm.
in that way, to protect myself. So, I that was my coping mechanism. So I push a lot of things out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, of course, now I'm much more relaxed. but I still don't remember most of these things.
Yeah, yeah. So I have two more questions. So please, people, if you have any questions, any comments, think this is a good time to make them known. You know, even just reading that extract from your book made me quite emotional. I was like, oh, Chanel, just hold it together. So what was it like for you? Because like you said, there were good parts of your childhood and then there was some really tragic times. So what was the process like for you reflecting on your childhood and then having to like get that down on pen and paper? What was that like, that process like?
So because I'm Johnny's daughter, I've done numerous interviews, right? Both national and international. I've done loads of them.
Yeah.
But this was the first time that I was so honest. I've
Mm.
never been honest to the core. But this book, that's why when you asked me about the book, I was thinking, okay, I need to get a stiff drink or something, or something, just to like ease me into it. So this book was raw, like you say. I told on things, and
Yeah.
I actually got a lot of backlash about it from certain people, because
Mm.
you're not supposed to tell on things. You're
Yeah.
supposed to sweep that under the rug, and everybody looks rosy. But
Mm.
I got to the point in my life where I said to my dad one day, you know, I that was my life. I lived that. Um,
Mm.
you can't tell me that it's not true, because
Yeah.
for so many years I was grappling with, did that happen? Did it not happen? And
Mm.
and I have to and I had to believe in myself that it did happen. I
Yeah.
am the daughter of Johnny Issel. I
Mm.
was put in a cell. I was interrupted at my house 5,000 times in the middle of the night while I'm laying in my nightie. I did
Yeah.
have the lights shone onto me and my brothers. They did push mom down the staircase and break her limbs. All these horrible things, because it was almost like
Mm.
people, lots of people in the organization, also with our own politics within it, was like, oh no, you guys didn't really have these things happen to you, so like just step
Mm.
to the side. But to validate for yourself as a person that, yes, you did have that, let's deal with it and let's go forward,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So we as the stalwart children, we need to recognize what we experienced, what
Mm.
pain we feel, and
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah. I want to go to some of the people's comments and questions, but I also just want to ask, what was it like reading your mom's story? Because that I also just recently read, I think on Freedom Day, I read your mom's story, which was also quite real and a different perspective. She obviously had a different perspective and a different experience. What was it like reading her raw and honest account?
So it was hard, because I must admit that I've our relationships have changed because I've become her mom, right?
Yeah.
Because
And you mentioned that in the book
yes,
as well.
so I tell her what to do. So I've always been her protector since I was 13. I had to take that role because she wasn't strong enough. And
Mm.
so I think the fact that she's such a lovely person, she's like, I always tell her, stop being Mother Jesus. You know,
Yeah.
can you just can you just do things for yourself? Stop doing
Yes.
things for other people. Because my mom's like that, you know. She'll give you a last piece of bread that she has in a cupboard.
Mm.
She's like
Mm.
that. So I think my mom's story, for me, I wanted her to tell it because I needed her to heal. And I
Mm.
still need her today, because she was arrested numerous times. Every weekend they pick her up. On Friday night, they'll pick her up. And then Monday morning, they let her out. And I think they did this for about a year. And 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 they stripped her naked, and they would humiliate her. and things like that. So, and that's when she started smoking, because when she came out, the psychiatrist said to her, perhaps you need to start smoking because her trauma was so hard for her. So I think it was, I just wanted it to be a bit whole. You know, I didn't expect it to be fantastic, but a bit whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anika says she's amazed at the way your senses remember everything that you felt. Eric Atmore, who is the director of the Cape Town Museum of Childhood, says, Leila, I worked with Johnny Issel in the early 1980s, distributing grassroots newspapers, organizing in Bishop Labours and Alsace River, etc. He was my senior by 8 years, a huge influence on my thinking. Then Bridget Cart says, where did you grow up and what primary school did you go to with that wonderful teacher?
So I was at Parker's Primary School. It was on the corner of Park Avenue Road in Mitchell's Plain. I think so. In Mitchell's Plain, they work with numbers. So Parker's Primary is number 2, because Mitchell's Plain Primary is number 1, right?
Yeah.
That time we used to work with numbers, right? I went to school 1980. 1979, 1980. I must have been 6 or 7, right? So it was Parker's Primary, Mitchell's Plain, and my principal was Mr. Engelbrecht, and my teacher was Portia Versace, and she actually passed away a few years ago. She was lovely.
Yeah. Okay. And then I just want to say hello to some people that joined. Nadine Kluter. Actually, that's the first time I saw a little clip of your father in her documentary film called Action Commandant. So yeah. So hi Nadine. Hello Lorinda, Melanie, and Stephen. And then Anika Lee says, what's it like carrying these memories over to your own children and how you communicate it to them?
So we don't. It's too hard.
Yeah.
It means I'm gonna have to open that up. And how do I know if I open that up, am I putting it across in the proper way? And when I say proper way, let me tell you guys that, look, our parents, I think they meant well, but we were exposed to so many things. When we were small, we watched Line of the Desert, Battle of Algiers. I'm not sure if you know these Islamic movies about war, right? So we had all these things. When I was 6 years old, we all used to go to school and we had a sentences book. I'm not sure, okay, you're not from that generation perhaps, but I am. So we used to have a book in English and Afrikaans, and it used to be called sentences. Then every Monday you come back to school, then you must have written 3 lines of what you did over the weekend. And I used to come back with, oh, Nelson Mandela, this happened to him over this weekend, or this guy got hung in Windhoek over this weekend, or the 540 people were arrested in this over this weekend. And this used to be my sentences every Monday morning. And all the other kids used to say, oh, we went to my grandma and we had ice cream. And I never had that. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay, so
just a question on the children is we don't really explain because we were so affected. I think me particularly, not me particularly affected, but I particularly feel that I don't want to damage Sada and Rana. I don't want to give them too much before their time. I want them to be children.
Yeah. Understandably so. Okay, so I know doing some research, there's a special story around your name, and so Bridget is asking you, are you named after anyone in particular?
Yeah.
So please tell us that story.
Yeah. So all my life, people have asked me this question, and I was like, yes, my mom and dad named after Leila Khalid. And then people's like, the terrorist. And I'm like, yes. And they were like, so does that mean you're a terrorist? And I'm like, I maybe, I don't know. But so anyway, so Leila hijacked an airplane in 1969 to enlighten the world about the Palestinian plight. Yeah, about what's happening in Palestine. And my parents fell in love with Leila and named me after Leila. And I actually got to meet Leila.
Oh, wow.
I met Leila about 7 years ago. I fetched her at the airport, and then I spent the evening. We had dinner together, and Leila is so normal. Oh my God. We went to stand outside when we fetched her at the airport. So she says, do you smoke? And I'm like, yeah. She said, come we go. And we went to stand outside, and we're standing outside at Cape Town Airport and having a skiff there and chatting and whatever. And it was completely liquor. It was so normal. She's just so gemaakt en so gelaat staan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand. Okay, cool. Okay, so Leila, I have my last question, and normally when we end our interviews, we always end it off with like a cool game. So my last question to you is this: many people saw Johnny Issel as an activist and a freedom fighter, but to you, he was your dad. So what was Johnny Issel like as a father, and what do you want people to remember about him?
My dad loved his every minute for the people of our country. When he was home, because of his detentions and his tortures, he couldn't be a normal father, loving and relaxing and cuddles and things like that. He was always a general. My dad was always a general. When he got home, we were the soldiers and he was the general. Yeah, it was always like that. So every minute of his life until he died was about there was something he told me. He said to me, Leila, I can't be at home because I have to fight for the children who don't have people who fight for them. So that was my whole life. And then he did an interview one day with someone called Trevor Oosterwyk, who was a very popular journalist in Cape Town many years ago. And in the interview, Trevor actually called me because he knew that we had our emotional issues as the children. And he said, Leila, you need to read this article. And in the article, my dad said, I couldn't love them because if I loved them, then the police would know my weakness. So I had to stop loving them. So that helped when Trevor told me this, because it helped with understanding why I was so distant always and cold. But it's hard, you know, for such children. But we try our best to be normal citizens today and not to be reactors.
And is there anything, attributes or characteristics that your father had that you want people to remember? Like, what is the legacy of Mr. Johnny Issel? What do you want people to take home with them and to remember, you know, about him?
One thing, the first thing that comes to mind is, so each time he'd be released from prison, then the next morning he'd put on his denim shorts. He had this short, he had a jeans that he cut off and he had a denim shorts. And he'll round up all the children in our road in Mitchell's Plain, all of us. And he'll walk us to Menandi Beach.
Oh, lekker.
And we'll go swimming. And that was like a big thing for us Mitchell's Plain children. I mean, You know, we didn't have those fancy cars. We can get in the car and drive to Camps Bay and he'll walk us to Manandi. That happened like clockwork. Right? He really cared for the children. And then he used to tell the children, you're only taking a towel and your shoes. We're not taking a lot of baggage. That's it.
Yes.
Towel and shoes. And if you have a sun hat, we take a sun hat. So that's the one thing. And then the second thing is that, I don't know, he always had this fight inside of him to fight for something, fight for equality, fight for peace. He had this non-stop fight inside of him. When he got older and he eventually moved to London because he was suffocating in Cape Town. He was suffocating. And he moved to London, and one day he phoned me and he said to me, on the phone, he said to me, Leila, everybody in London here is so sad. Everybody's so sad. When I look at everybody, they're so sad. And at that time, I was reading Jalaluddin Rumi, and I was learning about the mirror image. And then I asked him, and I said to him, so why are you sad, Dad? Because you definitely mirroring them. Yeah. So we did have a relationship, and we also didn't. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I know it wasn't easy. Thank you for being so vulnerable, and yeah, it's been really insightful, and thank you for that. So we're going to now end off on a fun note, and so this is our game that we play with all our friends at the end of the interview. And so I'm going to read out a sentence, and you just say the very first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. Okay. Your favorite childhood food?
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay. Your favorite childhood game?
On.
Yes. That was the best. That was the best. Okay. Your favorite childhood teacher? I know you said Miss Vasaki, but was there anybody else that maybe stood out for you?
Mrs. Baxton. She's now at UCT, I think. She's a professor there. I'm not sure.
Okay. Your favorite singer or band?
Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and Brenda Fassie.
Brenda Fassie. Okay, do you maybe want to just give us a little line out of Weekend Special, or is there a line from Michael Jackson you just want to share with us? Just to remind us of what that song sounds like. You know, the song sounds like.
JCC.
Come on, I mean, all of our guests do it. I mean, they sing loud and proud, they just belt out. Whatever song comes, just for 4 seconds, just let it go.
I'm your weekend special.
Hey, lovely. Well done, guys. You're going to see all the rounds of applause now coming. That was great. And then your favorite childhood outfit?
My favorite childhood outfit. My mom bought me one day for La Barang a lambada skirt.
Oh, okay, wow.
Look, you're too young now, but when the movie Lambada came out, that was like the thing. So it's a long skirt and it's got a bit of rouge at the bottom. And I was so quiet.
Okay. And I'm sure that skirt was cool for dancing, because when you dance, it kind of dances with you.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, when you were dancing to Weekend Special, you know, it just skit some. Okay, and then lastly, if you could describe your childhood using one word, which I know is probably going to be very hard, but what would that word be?
Different.
Okay. Great. So I just want to end off with reading some of the comments. Somebody, Annika said maybe you must do some dancing as well, but I think the singing was suffice. I think it was beautiful. You know, we don't want to do too much now. People are giving you hand claps. Jessica Blom said she loved it. Melanie said she loved those skirts. I'm sure Melanie had a skirt like that as well. Yeah. Okay, so is there anybody, you all the way in Germany, is there anybody that you would like to say a special, like, you know, this to say a shout out or mention or say, send some love to anybody, maybe in Cape Town or in some other parts of the world?
So I saw my friend here she's like 10 kilometers away from me, Rizia. She tuned in, but she doesn't speak a word of English.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, she only speaks German and Persian, Persish. So I'd like to say hello to her, and I'd like to say everybody for taking the time to listen to someone else.
Yes, yes. And again, Leila, I mean, this has been, I think I also felt very emotional. I felt it with you. Thank you for, again, being so vulnerable, sharing your story. I think, especially for us young ones, sometimes we don't realize how the sacrifices that people made for the freedom that we enjoy today. And sometimes we just take it for granted. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your dad, your parents with us. I know that is, I mean, you probably... Yeah, it was tough, it was hard, but we appreciate you. We salute you. We salute your father, Johnny Issel. We salute your mother, Shahida Issel, all your family members, your siblings. We just want to say thank you so much. And Leila, thank you for taking the time. I'm so glad that the time zones are the same as it with South Africa and Germany, so that worked out well for us. And like I said, you now have become a friend of the Cape Town Museum of Childhood. When you're in Cape Town and when the lockdown is lifted, please come and visit us. We will take you out for some lunch.
Of course.
You can choose whatever place you want to go to. And yes, just please send our love to your mom and your siblings. And yeah, have a blessed day. And thank you to all of you who joined in. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the love that you guys show us every Thursday. We see, we appreciate you. And yeah, just have a brilliant day. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cool. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.